Ciao Milanisti, it's your boy Kush in the Milan Corner. Guys, after weeks of negotiations, rumors, a Serie A title, Milan has a new owner. This man right there, Jerry Cardinal, he is the new owner of AC Milan. Now, who is Jerry Cardinal? Who is RedBird? What is their experience in owning sports teams? The misconception that people have about RedBird and Liverpool. Is Paolo Maldini going to stay? What about the Elliot group that are reportedly holding on to 30% of Milan's stake? We'll chat all about that, and I have a little bit of help from Matt Santangelo, but let's just dive into this misconception that people have about RedBird and Liverpool. RedBird are not 10% owners of Liverpool. Guys, back in March of 2021, RedBird made an investment of, I think, 530 million pounds into FSG, Fenway Sports Group. Fenway Sports Group is an organization based out of the US that have an ownership stake in a lot of different businesses. In real estate, in sports, they're the owners of Liverpool. They're also the owners of Boston Red Sox in the baseball league. And RedBird, with their 11% purchase, made them the third largest partner in Fenway Sports Group. However, back in July 2020, RedBird did purchase a football club, League 2 club in France, Toulouse. Remember when we're negotiating for this guy? Adli? He used to play for Toulouse. So RedBird have owned a football team for the past 2 seasons, who, by the way, at the end of this season, finished first and did get promoted to Ligue 1 France. And to the Indian viewers, I know there are a lot of people from India who watch these videos. Guys, RedBird is a part owner of the Rajasthan Royals in the IPL. So this is an organization that has its hands on multiple different sports organizations. So I am thrilled by them taking over Milan because they've already tried and tested in different departments. They've already seen how FSG works with Liverpool. They kind of know the recipe for success in football. I'm also happy that Elliot's gonna be holding on to a 30% stake. And before I jump into my conversation with Matt, guys, I just want to reintroduce you to our sponsors in OneFootball. Guys, do you know where I learned about the sale of Milan? On the OneFootball app. So once again, download the OneFootball app for all things football. You have match previews, you have match reviews, 5 takeaways from these games, you have videos from across the league, you have the transfers tab that keeps you up to date on which players are rumored to be moving where, which deals are already complete. So do me a favor, do yourselves a favor, download the OneFootball app so you can be in the know-how of all things football. And this is what I'll say before we jump into the interview with Matt. Guys, this is what I want you all to remember. A lot of you guys want an Investcorp. Why? Because we have this perception. The Middle Eastern guys are gonna throw a bunch of money in there and your club's suddenly gonna be successful. It's not how football works. Just look at what is happening with Barcelona. You need an organization that kind of knows how to make money. You need to make money. You have to have revenue. What RedBird's plan probably differentiated from Investcorp's plan in Elliot's mind was, hey, these guys are gonna come in here and turn AC Milan into a multi-level organization. It's not just going to be about the football on the field, but they're going to be involved in media and other departments. I think that is something that is a massive difference between RedBird and Investcorp. Maybe Investcorp's plan was purely the traditional Middle Eastern way of owning a football club. Just inject a bunch of cash and get big players. RedBird wants to generate a lot more revenue and use it towards the club. That is the one smart and sustainable way to do this. They're going to try and find ways of generating revenue from multiple different streams, and they will spend wisely. They're going to be a fiscally responsible ownership group, and I'm happy with that. If there's anything that we've seen from the past season, it's this: you can win when your organization is spending responsibly. So Matt, that was a little bit of a conversation between Milan fans about RedBird and Investcorp and how they felt like Investcorp would invest more in the team. I am happy, as I explained to the viewers right now, that RedBird are taking over. I think they're a little bit more responsible organization. They have more experience in sports. So what's your take on that? Do you think that this is the right move, or do you have a little bit of a hangover from that Investcorp deal falling through?
Well, I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, right? We were juggling between the two groups and whether or not we felt comfortable with one versus the other. And as things obviously have played out here, I'm looking at RedBird and the sort of involvement that you just alluded to in the sports world, clubs, owning entities, right? Because I think it's not even just a club, it's an entity, it's a huge organization. There's so many moving parts when it comes to it. But, from what I've read about RedBird and their involvement in, Liverpool, their stakes in other various sports organizations, franchises, that puts me a little bit at ease, because I think, having that background of knowing the American model of running a team, whether it be the stadium, the significance behind that, the connection to the fan base, which obviously is very huge when you're talking about a club like Milan, right? So, and then there's the Maldini aspect, which I'm sure, that's probably something that you had on your list here to discuss. But, just that puts me at ease, because I with any sort of takeover, I do not want Milan to lose their fabric of what makes them so special as a club. And I do not want them being just thrown onto the hands of a rich ownership group that doesn't truly understand the weight of the shirt, the colors, and the importance and significance of his club on a global spectrum.
Right, so at this point in time, it does look like the deal, sort of the way it's structured, is that 70% of the ownership is going to go to RedBird, 30% is going to stay with Elliot. I'm pretty confident from the looks of it, Maldini is going to be staying. There's no contract issues. There was a little bit of discomfort between Maldini and the organization over the past few days with some of the things that, Maldini kind of said in that interview with Gazzetta dello Sport. So what's your take on the Maldini situation?
I think that's an interesting dynamic there, right? Because in the interview that Paolo Maldini came out with last week, I think it was from Gazzetta, you can fact check me on that, but it was a lengthy interview where he was very outspoken and honest about, how the season played out, how happy he was that we, won the Scudetto, the big key signings they're looking to make in the summer. But he also wasn't shying away from the bitterness he had towards that potential takeover, or shall I say transition over to Ralf Rangnick, and how he was pretty much saying, I didn't forget that. Like we accomplished a lot. We accomplished what we set out to accomplish, but I still remember. And in the back of my mind, that played into it. And that was something that I think a lot of fans were concerned with when they heard. But I took it as more of this guy's confident. He knows he does a good job. He wants that contract. He has that right as a legend of the club and someone who's won as a player and now as a director to vocalize that. So I think that when you have ultimately RedBird getting the majority and from all signs pointing to him having that sit down that you just mentioned, I feel very, again, at ease. I feel very confident that those who are going to be taking on this club are going to put it in a position where they're going to spend, they're going to do the right things, but they're going to have that understanding and wherewithal and knowing that we got to give Paolo Maldini the contract he deserves. Mazzara deserves that contract as well because these guys have done a great job, and why fix what's not broken? So as the new owners of Milan, I'm sure there's a priority list of things that they need to get done. What do you think is right on top of that priority list? Make those sort of those splashes on the market, right? I think that's something that when you look at Milan's world record or their club record fee, Bonucci, Rui Costa, we talked about it last time. A lot has changed when those names. I know Bonucci was different, right? That was the different situation with the player exchanges and all that stuff. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, a club with Milan's stature and their size, they got to be willing to make those sort of assessments and assertions in the market to get the big high-profile players. I get they're moving in a way that's going to be shrewd, under the radar with some of their additions, and there's a time and place for those, right? Like with Alexis Salamakers as a small investment, but then they went out there and they got Tomori, who was 28 to 30 million. There's got to be those sorts of splashes on the market because I think what those will do is that will instill that confidence in the fans that they're not just going to be a team that's going to be pretty much following suit to what Elliot did. They're going to be putting it in a direction where we're at Scudetto, we're happy with that, but now let's take that leap forward where we can compete on a global scale across the board with City, PSG, and have those sorts of squads that really can compete head on in European competition. So it looks like the evaluation right now for Milan, the sale is around like 1.3, 1.8 billion mark. There's like some conflicting numbers out there. Chelsea was sold closer to that 4 billion mark, right? So the history between the two clubs is not even comparable. Milan is a far more historic club, but they're less than half of Chelsea's value. What's your take on that? And do you think the new ownership group can kind of minimize that gap that those two organizations have? It's hard to say, right? Because I don't think it's necessarily even just a Milan thing, or I think it's more of just an Italian football thing, if I'm being honest, because I think you look at the league, right? The revenue that a team like Milan gets paid out for finishing first in the league and their Champions League in comparison to what Norwich City, for instance, in the Premier League is getting for finishing 15th. It's not even close. So I think ultimately until Serie A and Calcio as a group, as a collective, can sort out that part of it, get more revenue coming into the league, get more eyeballs on this league, market it a little bit better from a commercial standpoint, I think you're still going to see these discrepancies. Now, maybe there's room in the future where Milan can get that valuation right where Chelsea is, but I think it's just hard to compare the two when, look, you mentioned it, the mark that Milan has left is so profound. It's larger than Chelsea's. We're going to say that. But I think at the same time, when you're taking over Chelsea, you're also taking the commercial potential, the commercial upside, the revenue, the TV rights. You're taking the whole thing, not just the stadium, not just the players on the field, and not just the coach. So I think it's a hard conversation to have at this point in time, unless, of course, the rest of Italy is able to get their act together.
Right, and I think that if there's any ownership group that can kind of pull it off without just pumping cash and injecting money into the company, it's guys like RedBird. They have experience in the industry. They've done this before. They're involved in a lot of different sports teams. So bridging that gap, of course, Serie A has to pull their part and do their part too. But I think RedBird's gonna help Milan big time in kind of bridging that gap. There you have it, Milanisti. That was my conversation with Matt Santangelo. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are amazing. All the amazing comments that I've seen over the past few days since Milan won the title. You guys are all really, really kind. So I just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm optimistic about the future of Milan. I think they're an ownership group that are going to do this responsibly. They're going to do it with the right kind of mechanics. And anybody who has a problem with the ownership group being about profit, as profit is what's going to make your club move forward. Profit is what is going to make you be able to build that stadium. It's not just about the ownership group pumping money into the team. Once again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification so you can watch the Milan Corner videos as soon as I upload. And as always, Forza Milan, grazie mille, e ciao tutti!